Welcome to Meet the Candidate. I'm Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce. Today we're joined by Town Council member Dawn Oliphant. Dawn, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Good morning.
So, if people are new to the area, tell us a little bit about your background and experience here in the town.
Great. Well, been in Queen Creek 20 years now. I was thinking about that the other day, and it's hard to believe, but moved here 20 years ago and have raised two amazing boys here. They came up through the school system, and one's graduated college and one is a junior in college. Wow. And I know, it's hard to believe. Spent many years, in the schools, on the PTOs, the booster clubs, doing all those things with our kids. Joined the council and just love to help, shape this community and volunteer. Been part of many nonprofit boards as they've come and gone through the community, and I'm lucky enough right now to sit on the American Legion Auxiliary Board, which helps our veterans and their families and the youth in our community, and that is a lot of fun to give back. And I also sit on the Big Will Foundation Board to help those that are less fortunate, that can't afford to pay for their athletic fees at their schools. And so we raise money to try to help those families because we know how important it is to be on a team. It teaches you a lot of stuff about leadership and teamwork and winning and losing and, how to do that with grace. So I just love being in this community and, just have always tried to just stay involved and give back and volunteer where I can.
And so you've been on council. Why do you want to run again, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
So I've been on council, and I, still have much more to give. Still want to serve this community. We have great residents here. Want to just keep a diverse community, with our parks and our housing, we started a police department a couple years ago, and we're such a young community that I feel like we still have a lot more to accomplish and some more things to get done, and just want to see what else I can do for another term.
I think a lot of people don't realize that all that's been done in the town, even over those 20 years, we moved here at about the same time. So starting even trash service, fire departments, police departments. So those are all big accomplishments. And what do you think then, having accomplished so much and having the town at this stage, what do you think the biggest challenges are still remaining that face the town?
Well, from our residents' perspective, it's always the traffic, right? And so I was talking to a group of people the other day, and they had to laugh at me because I said, okay, do me a favor. When you see construction, smile. Why? Because it means good things are coming when that construction is over with, right? And it's just a different way of looking at it, right? So because we're so young, we still have to grow out some roads. We still have some infrastructure that needs to be put in place. We still have some land that's available for growth. And so, just trying to take all that into account with a growing community. I mean, we're in our 30s. Right, we're still in our 30s. We haven't even hit 40 yet. So we've got a lot of growth and a lot of great things that can still come our way. And
with the traffic piece, a lot has been done with the capital improvement programs through the town. What do you think will bring the most relief in the near future?
Well, I think we had some big growth, all at once, and a lot of people came. And so we were trying to play catch up, right, a lot with our roads, with the people. And so I think that that's starting to even out a little bit. We're still growing, but we're not growing as rapidly as we were. And so I think with that, it's giving us an opportunity to catch up with our roads. A lot of residents don't understand that the town just doesn't go in and put the roads. They wait for the development to come in and pay for the road improvements. And so it's just also educating the residents a little bit on how all of that works with some of those things. And, as you get new residents in, it's like you're re-educating the masses. That's what's great about, having our website and having specific pages for certain things. I try to, point residents towards that so they can get the background of it. You and I have been here 20 years. We remember when our first stoplight went in, we had stop signs all over the place, right? And so why do certain roads get certain signals? Why, there's a reason behind all of that. And so it's just educating our community on what that is. It may not be in their timeline or something that they want, but there is a reason behind, that planning.
And you mentioned a key component of council's philosophy is growth pays for growth. So as those developments come in, they pay for road construction?
Yes, they do. So they pay for their side of the road. In a very few instances, I think the town had kind of come in and did some of that ahead of time, and then there's the payback, but really growth needs to pay for growth on that. That's why I say when you see the construction and you see the cones, know something great is coming when those are all taken down. So just changing perspective a little bit, because that's what we hear a lot about is it's too crowded, and a lot of it's because of the construction going on. But the construction is good because we've poured hundreds and thousands of dollars into our roads and into our signals and timing and, trying to make the flow of the community go. And at certain times of the day, it's better than other times. And, so, yeah.
Well, you mentioned growth, and one of the things that always comes up in conjunction with growth is water. How concerned are you about the town's water supply, and how is that looking going forward?
So I'm not concerned. I attended the Citizen Leadership Institute, their last class a couple weeks ago, and Mark was there presenting to us. And, we have such a diverse water portfolio with our purchase of the Harquahala water and the construction and stuff that's going to go on with that to get that to our community. We do have a smaller percentage of the Colorado River, which is nice that we have some other options, so we're not so reliant on that. We have a very robust water plan. And again, one of the things on the website that I direct a lot of our residents to, because they hear a news story that we're running out of water and everything is going to shut down and all of this. In Queen Creek, we're not. Mark had even stated to the students in the class, we have water. Queen Creek has enough water. Just be conservative with your water, right? And he talked about if you drain your pool, using your port at the front of your, in the front of your residence to drain your pool because it goes back into the system instead of letting your pool drain into the street. And I thought that was a good reminder for residents because I don't know if a lot of residents know that. So there's a lot of ways that we can, reuse recycled water and really kind of keep that into the aquifer and into the system. So I'm not concerned. We have great staff that keep us apprised of what is going on with water, different ideas that they have. So as of right now, I'm going off of what Mark's words, and Queen Creek is fine. We're not going to run out of water. So
you mentioned the Harquahala purchase. That put Queen Creek at the forefront of water policy.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about why that was so innovative at a high level.
So again, we have such great staff that, have thought about that. And even though it's on the other side of, our community, way on the other side of the state, it's just, goes to show you that, when you have people that are that invested in water and understand water, and they went out to do that, it was a big purchase for us, and it's not paid for, right? And so, but again, growth needs to pay for growth. We have some of it going in. It's going to secure us for 100-year water supply, and that's very important, even though we think, oh my gosh, we're not even going to be around in 100 years, right? But you have to set that, that legacy up for that. And one thing that Mark had mentioned was he's sure we're going to be getting some calls from some other municipalities and some other businesses wanting to buy some of that water from us. But like he says, that's our water. Yeah, we could probably get money back from it, but then what do we do? Then we have to go out and find more water. So we went out and got the water and made the investment in that for our residents here in Queen Creek, and very innovative to do that. I don't know 10 years ago if people would have thought Queen Creek could have gone out and done something like that. And we've done a lot of growth, and we've spread our wings, and we've been a lot of places and partnered with a lot of people. So very, very proud of that, to be part of that legacy here
Some
in
of
Queen
that
Creek.
took new legislation in order to get that done, because there wasn't a mechanism to do that. And there's been a lot happening with Queen Creek and municipalities at the state legislature, particularly this year. And so what's your view on recent legislation that would restrict municipalities from setting design standards or regulating taxes and fees and things like that? And how would that impact us going forward?
Well, that would impact us greatly. Again, we're a growing community. We're not built out, and so that makes a difference on that. I do get a little frustrated sometimes at the state level when something is passed as a blanket and it doesn't take each community into consideration, right? Phoenix is much different than Queen Creek. Gilbert is much different, right? We are much different than some of the other municipalities. And so to have a blanket legislation for something, I just don't agree with that. It needs to be local control of like our design standards, because again, we're not built out yet. And there are some municipalities that are more in the redevelopment stage, because they have 30, 40, 50, 70-year-old properties that they're trying to turn over or redevelop a whole entire block of stuff, like in Mesa, in Chandler, right? They've got a lot of older neighborhoods than we do here. And so having a rule or something that's blanket for all, I just have a hard time supporting that. Unless it was something so simple that would make development better for everybody. I just feel like it needs to be in each community, because we're different than Florence, right? We're different than Coolidge. And so to say something would be great for us, maybe it's terrible for them. And regulating different things, we need to do what's best for our residents of Queen Creek. That's who pays the taxes. That's who, chooses to live here and chooses to open a business here. So my interest is Queen Creek.
And along those lines, how do you think the town should approach making housing more affordable? Is there something the municipality can do to do that?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I think having some diversity in your housing options is really helping too. I just had this talk with a young resident in his 20s, and he has no interest in buying a house. And because he said, well, I don't know if this is where I want to live forever. So why would I buy a house in my 20s, right? I just want to work. He wants, some type of townhome or apartment or something where he can put roots down here, but he can, be available to go wherever he wants to go. And so with talking with different residents and, just having a diverse housing opportunity, I think will help with the affordability of housing, right? I would love if houses cost what they did when you and I first moved here, and that would be great. I know interest rates are a big issue. Some don't want to enter the housing market because of the interest rate. Some don't mind paying a higher price for a house if the interest rate is a little bit lower, to where they could actually afford to be in the house. So I just think having some diversity of our housing options is one way of doing that. I know there's some maybe state and federal funding to help those, homeowners that are wanting to purchase something like that. And I'm just hearing some of our younger generation are getting roommates and like reimagining how a roommate situation looks with couples. I just heard, I don't know if you heard about that, but they're doing like couple roommates now, and where 2 couples or 3 couples are getting together and renting apartments and houses and stuff. So I'm like, well, that's a creative way to, to address that.
Right, people find a way, but the diversity of the housing stock is going to be key. Is that something that the council can steer or direct?
Well, it just depends what private sector comes to us with what project that they come to us. And, I'm not opposed to multifamily housing. What I'm opposed to is just a project just to get something out on paper and we're going to plop it wherever. I don't support that, right? I want to see what the product is. Where is it going to go? Does it make sense? Do we have our traffic study? Do we have, right? Does it make sense where it's at when that developer comes to us? We're not in the housing building market. We don't build multifamily. We don't build houses, right? So we rely on the private sector to do the research ahead of time to see if that's warranted in our community. So.
And along with multifamily and all of those things come open spaces. So do you support the town's parks plan? And what do you think we should do in the future as far as building more parks or less parks?
So I've always been a supporter of parks. Maybe raising my kids here, we've always been park people, I guess you will. My kids play sports too. Soccer's a big one to play outside, and just getting out in the community. I've always been a supporter of our parks. We've got some beautiful parks here, and I know we have a couple spaces for a few more smaller parks. I think our big parks are kind of have been spoken for, but we've got some space for some smaller parks and open spaces. And I believe that creates community, because it's nothing like going to a park and meeting somebody that's a resident that you have no idea, and you live maybe across town, and now you've come together at a park. And even on our walking trails, I've met some residents that came over to walk at our new park that are from the other side of town, as you say, and just meeting them. So I love parks. I love our open spaces. I believe that's what helps build our community, and kind of what makes our community great is by sharing the outdoors and then some of our recreation facilities and stuff with residents.
You mentioned a couple of times people can go and get more information at the website. We're talking about queencreekaz.gov, the town's website.
Yep.
How do people get more information about you?
So I do have an election website. It's dawnoliphant.com. So there's a few things on there. There's an email address on there. I'm always open to talking to residents if if they ever have any questions. I've always been like that. My email's always been out there. You can, look me up on the town's website too. There's a town email on there. I've always been a supporter of talking with our residents and hearing what they have to say, because I'm just one person. We have, 90,000 people, which I can't believe I'm saying that when we first moved here, but I want to hear from residents, right? I want to hear what their questions are. I want to try to help clarify information that they may not have the correct information of. We don't know everything. I don't know everything. We have amazing staff. We have amazing resources that point, residents to that. So there's ways that, they can get a hold of me that way. And again, I've always been accessible, to residents all these years on council, and I will continue to be when reelected.
Anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to get out there?
I don't think anything that, I love this community and I love serving, and it was, not even a question to, run for reelection, to just continue to serve the residents. We've got a great community. Overall, our residents are very happy with what's going on, and we provide parks and, public safety. And again, when you look for that construction and you see those cones, I want people to smile and think of me and know that something, better is coming on the other side of that. And so, I appreciate your time today and you doing this for, all the candidates and letting us get our thoughts and stuff out there to our residents.
Well, with that, thank you for your time. We appreciate you being here. Councilmember Dawn Oliphant.
Thank you, Chris.